Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone, and we have four great decks to discuss for you today. If you're looking for the thumbnail deck and you happen to be new here, that deck is always the second. We give you at least three new decks every single day, and the second of those is always that thumbnail deck. However, we're going to kick it off with this classic Apocalypse discard because this is a budget option that's doing really, really well into the meta right now. It's got gameplay into everything. Enchantress can be a bit of a pain for it, but with Red Guardian falling out of favor, this is a deck that's absolutely crushing at high infinite. I've been crushing with it, and so have many others. You can find me streaming. You can actually check yesterday's VOD at twitch.tv/pulseglazer or right here on this YouTube to see me play this at the end of stream and have a lot of success. I also obviously played this a fair bit off stream. It's a very, very, very good list. The only high series card you really need for this list is Scorn, and if you don't have Scorn, have no fear, it's in Spotlights in 2 more weeks with Khonshu. So no rush, in 2 more weeks after this one, Scorn will be out. Malekith for this list can be Fenris or Swarm. We're going to talk about Malekith's use when we get to the turn by turn. But for the time being, if you need to run Swarm, you can. The big problem with Swarm is you need to discard Swarm early or use MODOK on turn 5 to make sure that Swarm gets hit by a discard card because you don't want those Swarms in hand messing up your Apocalypse or Scorn last turn for Dracula. Fenris Wolf is very, very good into the meta. If you're going to add that, strongly consider, as in please do add Moon Knight in one of these spots. But Fenris Wolf's main use here is that it's a very hella heavy meta. I don't know if you noticed that. But Hela is all over the place, and it's incredibly hard to beat. We're going to actually end up talking about Hela several times today. But since Hela is everywhere, Fenris Wolf gives you a very strong counter to Hela, whereas like on turn 5, before they play their Hela, you get back one of their big cards, and then you're very, very favored in the matchup. Grandmaster here is incredible, can be Collector or Lady Sif, or honestly pick your poison as far as discard cards. It is mainly meant to be used here with Gambit as a way to clear out smaller boards. That's obviously extremely strong into the meta, especially as people are ending up playing an awful um, lot of stuff in one lane, trying to get it into like multiple Galactas with the images of Icon, that kind of thing. Being able to Grandmaster those cards off is incredibly, incredibly strong. Grandmaster Gambit those cards off. So this one has a 66% win rate in 100 games at high infinite, and I'm personally 9 and 4, 69% win rate at high infinite with this list. Again, I've played this list a ton. Um, there's definitely a few losses I've had with this list where I'm just sort of out of practice with it, where like I've thought I know what to do. I've played this so much, and then like all of a sudden I just miscounted it. I'm just very, very slightly out of practice where I'm used to playing around Red Guardians with the list, and then I get hit with like a Enchantress instead, and I'm just learning that last little bit of it. Although I have won a few games that just like Gambit is kind of nuts, and Gambit hits the right thing, right? So there's a little bit of each here. Turn 1, you want Blade if a discard card, and your 3 discard cards are Scorn, Proxima, and Apocalypse. You would much rather hit Scorn or Apocalypse with that Blade than Proxima. Proxima is a fine hit, right? But MODOK hitting Proxima late gives you a much more accurate idea of where you're actually sending that damn card, and that is very, very powerful. Next up, Mobius over Colleen if Scorn or Blade if a discard card. Your Mobius rule here, Morbius, your Morbin time rule here is don't play it in the same lane as Strong Guy. Make the opponent choose where they're going to Enchantress. And hey, sometimes they're going to Enchantress Morbius. You should still be able to compete in that lane. Enchantress is a 6. That's a single Colleen that hits a Scorn, right? You should be able to relatively evenly contest that kind of lane. And Morbius is incredible when it works, but like don't rely too much on it. You can also use as a distraction. The opponent's going to play big cards there, and you can just sort of go elsewhere. If they leave Morbius, it can be a lane winner, and if they don't, you can end up winning. Colleen, if Scorn is perfectly fine, or you can Blade still a discard card. I would not Colleen on 2 if Blade's in hand. Blade is too useful at the end of the game with MODOK, but I would Colleen if Scorn is the only one in hand. Turn 3, you generally speaking just want to play Strong Guy. Strong Guy, good. That's, I don't know, nice and simple. It's a 3/9. 3/9 is a lot. So you play Strong Guy as a general rule on turn 3, again in a different lane than Morbius. Um, I tend to like to try and stack that lane and win with a lot of mid-rangey stuff. That's not going to be my Dracula lane, right? But I'm like Strong Guy plus a Colleen Blade and something else does give a reasonable shot at winning a lane. It means the opponent has to actually invest there to beat it. If nothing great is in hand, and Dracula and Modok are the great cards in hand that you would not, I would Gambit if they played a key card at this point. Gambit is very strong. It's also worth noting that you want Gambit to be on the left or the right alone, not in the middle, so you can Grandmaster it later. Gambit gives you an incredible Hail Mary, usually around turn 5. Turn 4, you usually want Dracula, and because Red Guardian's not popular, you need to know the meta, but without Red Guardian especially popular right now, Dracula can be a snap. You can snap either right before or right after, depending on what you're threatening. A snap right after Dracula, for me, is usually I'm trying to scare them away. I might not have the exact right hand yet. A snap before Dracula means I want to keep them in and get the extra cubes. Um, and then after Dracula, you'll play Malekith. And once in a while, if I'm missing my Modok, if I'm missing my Apocalypse, I will play Malekith on turn 4 and then go to Dracula on turn 5. And the basic logic of that is the Malekith hits, which I want to discuss now. Scorn is your very, very bad Malekith hit. It turns it into a 4/8 that's not very good. Blade, however, is absolutely incredible. Blade turns Malekith into a 4/9, very good stats, but also at the end of the game, Scorn or Apocalypse should be in your hand. And if they are, then all of a sudden, that Blade is giving you that extra discard. If you don't see Scorn or Apocalypse, you're running, right? Morbius turns Malekith into very often like a 4/20, which is great. It pulls it out of the deck. Grandmaster will give you a second Malekith trigger at the end of the game, which means if you have two cheap things in the deck, Malekith is going to pull another one of them, give you an extra shot for that Gambit, give you an extra shot for all these other things we're talking about. You can also if you draw Gambit, drop Gambit into that Malekith Grandmaster lane, and then the Grandmaster will either hit Malekith, great, or Gambit, great. Hitting Colleen turns Malekith into a 4/10 and again gives you a shot at you'll only have one card in hand by the end ideally, so that's giving you a great shot at that excuse me, Scorn or Apocalypse extra discard. Plus just 4/10 is a lot of stats for one card. Gambit's obviously insane, right? Like a late game, end of the game Gambit gives you this giant Hail Mary. And then the last card you could hit is Strong Guy, and you should almost always be triggering a Strong Guy. Not always. There's always some weird variant stuff, but 90% of the time you're hitting Strong Guy. It's going to work. So you're going to get a 4/15 out of Malekith from that. So Malekith has just like, besides Scorn, absolutely incredible hits. Even its bad hits of like Blade and Colleen are 4/10, 4/9, and then plus whatever else they discard. So that's why he's so good. Plus he draws you toward Modok and Apocalypse. And remember, you really do want to see Apocalypse or Scorn in Apocalypse or Scorn in this list. Turn 5 will sometimes be Modok if you just don't have much in hand, and but generally speaking, you're going to want to go a 3+ Grandmaster, or this could be a turn that you play like Gambit and Morbius, that kind of thing. So you just want to play some extra cards. You could a play I reasonably often do is I go Blade Colleen Grandmaster on this turn. All that stuff is really fine. Turn 6, generally speaking, you want Modok and Scorn, Modok and Blade. Remember that you're going to keep Scorn in hand if you have Dracula in play and you don't have Apocalypse. But if you do have Apocalypse in play, Apocalypse in hand and Dracula in play, then you're going to play that Scorn. You're usually playing like 16 power that way because you're playing Modok, who's 8, and then you're playing Scorn, who's about 8. Awesome. Awesome list. This is very powerful, and I cannot urge you to give it a try enough. It puts up enough points to really compete with Hela, right? It occasionally it can struggle with negative, but if they don't see their magic, it can blow up or their perfect draws, it can blow up a negative game plan, and it competes really well with all the mid-range stuff, all the Agamotto stuff out everywhere that's trying to sort of keep their board a little empty and thus falling prey to Gamut. And some of them are running Enchantress, but they're all running Shang, which you basically make a dead card. Stellar stuff here. Before we get to the deck of the day, please hit that sub button if you're willing, as we try to hit 25,000 subs in 2025. We've got an amazing start to getting there. We give you at least 7 videos a week. This week, we will be giving you 9, maybe 10, actually I think 10 videos, as we have a second video Thursday, tomorrow, for the OTA, and then we will have 2 videos Saturday when we release both the podcast and a bundle review. We give you more decks than anyone, the best decks before anyone is talking about them. This next list you're not going to see anywhere else, and it's absolutely stellar. It's an 80% win rate list. Hit that sub, and you'll always be able to stay ahead of the curve and ahead of the meta. In addition, we are giving away an Agamotto this week. We give away one every week until the end of the season, and then we give away 5 the first week of the season. So if you'd like to win Agamotto, all you have to do is sub, like, and then later this video, I'm going to ask you to leave a comment. When you leave that comment, you're entered to an Agamotto. Boom, real simple. Next up, we've got the Iga Aga Any. This is an Agamotto Annihilus list. This is the feature list of the day. I am in freaking love. I had played, Derek had tried to build this. A few other players had tried to build this Annihilus Agamotto thing, which seems like it's going to be really strong, and then it's just really, really hard to use. Well, Ika figured it out. He had a crazy win rate with it. I had a crazy win with it. This list feels incredible. Your turn five, if you can get the turn five of the +4 energy, is just wildly, wildly strong. Like you have a million plays and a million things to do, and you have extra draws to get there. Stellar list. You can find the creator of this list, one of the best and most important deck builds in Marvel Snap, at twitch.tv/Ika_MTS. He is absolutely brilliant and fantastic. This deck does need Agamotto, Annihilus, and Cersei. Those three are non-negotiable. You can buy Agamotto or win Agamotto here. Annihilus is Series 4, and Cersei's a card you might not have, but guess what? Cersei's another card coming to Spotlight soon, so keep that in mind. King Eitri, hopefully you got for free when you could. Nico's in Spotlights next week. They can be Quinjet and Titania. Titania is very good in this type of list. She also really does mess with opponents. Iron Patriot, Sam and Kate are really hard to replace. One can be Shang, the others can be Cable and Mirage. Kate giving you an extra option at that Acid Arrow is amazing. And Iron Patriot with Green Goblin is like way, way, way too good. I feel like people have been sleeping on this because they play Iron Patriot, then they're gonna play a card. They're gonna play a card in that lane, right? Maybe two. And if you get a Goblin there, like even if you don't get the Iron Patriot discount, you've basically clogged that lane, and that is so freaking strong. That combo is definitely slept on. Rocking Groot is incredible, but it can be Nocturne. You do want a mover in this spot because you want to be able to, like, if your Rocking Groot isn't hitting, you do want to be able to Cersei that and turn it into a 4. Let's go card by card for what the hell everything is doing here. This is an Annihilus package deck, like we used to run Annihilus before it was like run all the Clog cards. It was a simple 3-card package of Hood, Sentry, and Annihilus. That's exactly what this list does. Thus, it is very strong. If your opponent cannot fill that Annihilus lane, Sentry ends up being an 18 power play. Hood ends up being a 9 power play all by himself. That's wildly strong and game winning in and of itself. Hood is generally just for that Annihilus. You can also Cersei it away, right? You can also Nico use it to draw 2 or turn it into a demon, as the case may be. You have those at least 3 options to deal with the card. Be a little careful though. If your opponent can fill 3 spots and you have Hood and Void in one lane, you don't always especially want to end up having to send over that blah, 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 Hood and then just lose the Void. However, you also have the images of Icon as just an extra way to deal with the Hood, right? You've got that Hood in one lane and you're able to get rid of one thing. You can always use images of Icon to turn the Hood into something else too. King Eitri says draw a spell. You really, really, really want images of Icon is fine. You're not like against images of Icon here. It's obviously very good in certain situations, but what you're actually looking for almost always is not Winds of Watoomb. Winds of Watoomb is good, but again, not great. It's just that's further clog. I tend to be trying to clog the middle lane with my Goblin Hood type nonsense as a general rule with this list. What I'm looking for is my Ballsack. My Bolts of Ballsack are absolutely incredible here. It gives me the power to, if I can play it on turn 4, for example, with, I don't know, a demon or whatever else, go Sentry Annie in one turn, go Annie Cersei in one turn. I can play it on turn 5, and then that 10 energy lets me go Demon Sentry Annie, shit like that is, or Cersei Sentry Annie. All that stuff is incredibly, incredibly strong, and that is the key spell for this list. Nico is incredible. Turn stuff into a demon, draw 2. You do want to draw a lot of cards here. Very, very simple. You're usually not using the +2 or the copy spell, but they're not bad to have in a pinch. Kate Bishop is awesome. It gives you Acid Arrow. Grapple Arrow remains every bit as good as Acid Arrow, even though it doesn't get the pub. There's numerous locations that Grapple Arrow just wins for you and Acid Arrow does not. They're both just incredibly strong cards. The extra stuff is just extra stuff, right? But those 2 cards are key. Iron Patriot is damn near a requirement for this list because, again, Iron Patriot, Green Goblin, right? You drop an Iron Patriot, they try and win the Iron Patriot, you drop a Green Goblin. They drop an Iron Patriot, you can ignore your Iron Patriot and just Green Goblin their spot and you'll be totally fine. It is so strong. Sam Wilson gives you that extra 1 drop for Images of Icon and also ends up basically being a 2/7. 2/7s are good. I don't know. That's basically the logic here. Um, it has that extra synergy. You're happy to have it for the images for the occasional Cersei type of thing. Green Goblin is like your key card here. I know it seems so weird, but Green Goblin is your key card. It gives them enough, it clogs them enough that they are very wary to clog the right lane. And if they're wary to clog the right lane, that's when your Sentry Annie stuff really breaks. Rock and Groot, like Iron Patriot, tells opponents where to play. And if you can tell opponents where to play, like you play Rock and Groot on the right lane where they're trying to clog, if you get Rocket and Groot before they've done any real work there, that is a 2/5/7, a 3/9 as they try and fill that location by turn 5 that you can then move. Because remember, it's stealing a power and gaining a power, which is incredible. And once it's a 3/9, you're probably not going to end up Cerseiing it, right? But that is a lane winning threat, and then you can still Cersei off other things, move that Rocket Groot and Cersei off, wildly powerful. Sentry is in many ways your key card. Getting the free 4 to turn into a 5 from Cersei is wild. Getting that -9 over is lane winning against like even some of the biggest decks. Sentry is great. Annie and Cersei are the combo of stuff that your opponent can't handle. You should be able to read the board and figure out what your opponent has if they have enough stuff to clog a lane, if they have enough stuff to really go off. If they're going to clog that lane, then Cersei is great. And if not, Annihilus is great. And remember, don't feel bad to do both, right? You can Annihilus and get some stuff over, and then you can Cersei another lane in order to really go over the top. If you've got that Annihilus or Cersei, though, don't hesitate to end the game with a 13 power Agamotto and a demon. That kind of 19 power end game play is pretty damn good, too. There's a million ways to do this, but Cersei, Annie, and Sentry are really the keys here, while Green Goblin sort of tells the opponent to get really, really careful. Before people know this, this is a cube thief. I'm winning a million cubes with this. So this is 23-4 between me and Ika as of right now. I won one on my phone while I was waiting for my son in swimming before I decided to play Suikoden instead. And then I went 4-0 on my computer, and then Ika's 18-4. So this list just feels insane. Uh, Really good matchups into almost everything right now too, because you should be able to clog a Hela out and then just go over the top in one lane, right? Like unless you get unlucky with the variants, you should be able to go really, really tall. So Nico, draw 2 or demon is better than Hood, is better than Eitri, and you can mix and match spells any turn. Remember that your bolts of Balzac is your turn 4 or 5 play, generally speaking, as it's incredibly strong then. Turn 2, Iron Patriot. Iron Patriot can be a potential snap condition if you're pretty sure you're going to win it, if it gives you something good, or if it's going to give you a clog. So Iron Patriot in any of those situations is a snap. Sam is also really good here. You can also just play Sam fine later on, fitted and curve. As long as you play it on turn 3, you're still going to get the 2 moves to it. And Kate is good because you're looking for acid largely. Like there's location setups where you just need to know if you have acid or grapple so you can snap. Turn 3 is Goblin, and Goblin can be a snap. If there's any clog, like if there's any auto clog in the game, Goblin is often a snap and that your opponent can't deal with. Um, Meanwhile, obviously, it's really, really great on Iron Patriot. You can also play Rocket and Groot, particularly if you have priority. If you don't have priority, that card is significantly worse, but still good. Generally speaking, I do want to play that in the right lane if I can, because I'm trying to get the opponent to avoid playing there. You can also just drop a 2/1 as required here. Next up, we've got Sentry, and Sentry is very often a snap condition. You should be able to tell quickly, A, do I have Annie and Cersei if Sentry is a snap condition? But don't drop Sentry if you are going to play Ballsack, because being able to Annie or Cersei with Sentry on the same turn is the goal of that play. You cannot Ballsack on 3, but you can Ballsack on 4 or 5 to get that combination off. You can also go 3/1 or 2/2, fine here if you don't have Sentry. Like if you play your Rocket and Groot after your Goblin now, because you know they're not going to play in that Goblin lane, right? And you should have Prio, so you can play your Rocket and Groot with a Demon, or get that Hood out, or whatever else you would like to, or get Eitri to try and draw a damn card. You can also go 2/2 if you played Iron Patriot. Now you can go Sam and Kate, for example. Turn 5 is Spells or Sentry. You can also go Annie or Cersei here if you were forced to play fair. And then turn 6, Annie or Cersei plus, or you can just drop Agamotto. And if Annie, Cersei, and Sentry are happening, you're very often going to end up snapping, know what the meta is, know what the opponent's doing, but very, very rarely can an opponent actually work around that combination of cards. Enjoy your victories. This list is severely underrated. No one's going to expect it. If you can figure out how to play this, and it's not easy to play, right? There's a lot of moving parts, but if you can figure out how to play this, you're going to steal a lot of cubes. I hope you enjoy this list because I sure as heck did. Hey, come check out a stream at twitch.tv/PulseGlazer. I'm going to try and be streaming at about 3:30 p.m. Eastern today. I might end up a little busy. I'm guaranteed streaming tomorrow to stream the podcast with Kidley-chan and Kier Nimbus at twitch.tv/PulseGlazer tomorrow night. But I might be streaming today too. Please do check it out. Pretty please. All right, so our season pass question is very simple. If you'd like to enter to an Agamotto, just tell me what you think about Starbrand. I'm about to give you my impression. You tell me what you think. Also, later this week, Saturday, we're going to do a bundle guide of every bundle that has Series 4 and 5 cards, along with telling you the best way to spend your gold and cash in Marvel Snap. Spotlight Cash review will wait. Sunday, we are on the front page of Twitch at the twitch.tv/PulseGlazer channel, and we're going to do a Series 4 and 5 tier list along with calling tournament games and games with viewers. So come check that out for massive giveaways and some really cool stuff. Next up, Starbrand. Starbrand is the new card. He's a 3/10. Your opponent has +3 power at each other location. We found 3 decks that run this card fundamentally, I think. There's other things that like it. So you can run it in Surtur, you can run it in the Sauron list, and people are trying to mix and match those, and I don't think it works. And you can run it in Sera. So we're going to look at the Scar list and what we think of it right now, and then we're going to look at the Sera list. The list that performed best for me with Starbrand was the day one list from yesterday. I went 7-3 with it. It felt very, very good. Some of its losses were to locations. This card felt amazing when I had Sauron and kind of mid when I didn't have Sauron as a general rule. Now, Skada list is one of the better lists in Marvel Snap, or was before the Surtur and Scar nerfs. This was Skada's list. He was a top 10 player with it. He's an absolute beast with this, like no doubt, no question. So I asked him what he thinks of it, and he said, Starbrand is eh. This deck is eh. And part of the reason for that is, unless you get lucky with Cosmo, this list sort of just dies hardcore to Hela. Like, absolutely just falls apart to Hela. And Hela's one of the most popular decks right now. Like, I would argue, I'm pretty sure by the stats and my argument, Hela is the most popular deck right now. And Hela does a lot of points, just easier than this deck does a lot of points. And thus, I think that Hela, with Iron Man over Blink right now, because you're just trying to do more points with Hela at the moment. But those Hela lists, check Friday's video, top 10 decks in Marvel Snap, if you need to find that Hela list with the turn by turn, is going to push this deck down. How good is this list? I think we need to wait till Thursday's OTA, and we'll talk about the OTA during questions of the day later this video. But I think we need to wait until Thursday's OTA in order to really assess how good that this deck is. However, I know a lot of you really like this archetype and enjoy it, and this is what the deck looks like from an absolute expert with it as far as how we should play it. Skada, for this list, you need Scar, Surtur, Cull, Samuelson, and Starbrand. I'd actually argue you might be able to change Surtur right now for Juggernaut, but you need Scar, Cull, Samuelson, and Starbrand. Cool. Cull will be in Spotlights next month, along with Surtur. Scar is in Spotlights right now. Starbrand is in Spotlights right now. So if you bought last month's Season Pass, you're most of the way there. Ares is important, but oh my god, did Ares hit 0 times for me on stream yesterday. Ares can be Typhoid, but then you're going to need to run Luke instead of Shadow King or Luke instead of Surtur. Shadow King, Juggernaut, Iron Patriot are all in different versions of this list. You pick your poison. So turn 1, you want Zabu. Generally speaking, Zabu gives you the option to go Ares, Atuma, Crossbones, or Cull on turn 3, or just as important, go 3+2 on turn 5, because that's a really, really great turn to get out armor, because Starbrand makes it harder for you to win priority, which matters in a Shang-Chi meta. Zabu over Armor or Sam is your turn 2 play. Again, Zabu being extremely important, Armor and Sam being fine later. You don't actually ever really need to play Sam unless you immediately find the shield in the wrong location. If you do play Sam on 2, it's fine. Again, 2/7 is good. Turn 3, you want a 4/10. Generally speaking, you'll play that over Starbrand or Surtur. Playing a 4/10 gets you Prio. Playing Starbrand loses you Prio. Getting Prio is better in a list that runs Cosmo and Armor. Surtur is fine here still, but remember that it's only going to be, unless it gets a buff from somewhere, if there's a +1 location somewhere, or Surtur's gotten hit by the +2 Wakandan Embassy thing, or whatever else is given Surtur +1, then feel free to instead play Surtur. He goes right up the list. But outside of that, Surtur's fine, but not a priority here. Turn 4 is a 4/10. Turn 5 is a 4/10, but what you really like to do is play a 3/10 and a 2. So that would be a Zabud 4/10 or Starbrand +2 is a really, really good play here. And then you want, that would, if you can get that going, if you can go 4/10, 4/10, 4/10, you now have a 1 a 1/12 Scar, which you can play with Cosmo, Armor, Shadow King, some combination thereof. You can play with Cosmo and Armor, or Cosmo and Shadow King, as the case is, and still be able to win the game, and that's how you are ultimately trying to win with this list. You can also, at the end of the game, play Scar with your last 410 as required, or any old 410 as required, and still win that way. Because he's all lots of power to this list, very, very, very strong. Loses to Hela, and because it loses to Hela and usually loses to negative unless you get lucky with that Cosmo, this is one that's probably going to have to wait a few days before we really see it take off. Again, let's revisit this list over the weekend when we are able to better assess it. Again, I'm assuming that Hela will be nerfed. Hey, we're hosting a big tournament Thursday on our Discord. Make sure you join our Discord. It's linked in the description of this video. If you'd like a quick single animation, really fun tournament, make sure you go check that out. King of the Hill. We also have our friends streaming some of these decks. I might or might not be on today, but the great game with Flash X will be between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern. Go check out Flash. He's on his big partner push. So let's actually support Flash by saying, hey, if Flash, excuse me, if Flash ends up getting his partner push, I'm going to give away a whatchamacallit, a season pass on his stream. So if you'd like an extra season pass, go check out Flash tonight. Next up, we have zombies going Nom Nom's Sera Brand. So I actually have one card different. He has Killmonger, I have Juggernaut in this, but this is a very, very, very powerful list right now. This is a Starbrand list. So a lot of Sera lists recently have taken to using Ghost, so they don't have to worry about Prio. Starbrand does the same damn thing as Ghost fundamentally in trying to lose you Prio, while also being something that can be very, very strong in winning a lane. Great combination. If you go Starbrand on top of Iron Patriot, Starbrand on top of Lizard, you now also have an easy Enchantress lane. You'll love to see it. You can find zombies at twitch.tv/zombies go nom nom. This deck doesn't really need any high series card, although I would not play it without either Starbrand or Gladiator. The other can beat Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Iron Patriot and Fenris are great. Sam, Cable, and Mirage are fine replacements. I played Sam in the Fenris spot earlier. I think Fenris is just better. Again, for the millionth time, Hella meta, you only have Shang, but if they're discarding their own cards, then Fenris is good enough. Anti-Venom can be Galacta here. I know that's just another high series card. Anti-Venom is significantly better with Luke and the extra ability to play a free card that can win you the game. Hitting a Fenris, hitting a Zabu, any of these is just great. Like even hitting your small stuff with Anti-Venom is great. But Galacta's perfectly fine because she big stats. All right, so Starbrand is a huge ghost, and again, this was the second most successful list that I tried with Starbrand yesterday. You can go check out the stream. Turn 1, you want Zabu. Zabu can be a snap if the right ones are in deck, although I would wait to see another location or two. Turn 2, Iron Patriot. Iron Patriot is very often a snap because Gladiator and Starbrand are fairly likely to win that location. If you don't play Iron Patriot, you're usually going to play Lizard or Fenris here. Lizard and Fenris are both perfectly fine. Again, we're not in a very heavy Red Guardian meta, so feel free to drop Fenris. Lizard has two ways to keep his power if the opponent fills the lane, by the way. Lizard does not go down to a 2/2 if you have Luke Cage out. Lizard obviously can just be have an Enchantress Blade on it and then be a 2/6. Gladiator or Starbrand is generally speaking your turn 3. If it's on Iron Patriot, that can be a snap condition. If it's not on Iron Patriot, I wouldn't. If you're not playing them, you can drop Luke just fine here. Don't go Iron Patriot into Luke if you could avoid it. That's a bad play. At that point, I'd probably play Lizard and then I'd play Luke and then I'd go Iron Patriot and like Fenris or something else on 4. Turn 4, you generally want Anti-Venom over 3 over a couple of 2s. Turn 5, Sera is your goal. Sera is a snap condition here for sure. If you can get Sera without priority, you should almost always snap. Your opponent has to respect the Shang-Chi and should, generally speaking, run. You can also go a 3/2, or you can just drop Anti-Venom at this point. Turn 6, Shang or Enchantress with Juggernaut, Lizard, Luke. You pick your poison here, right? You drop as much stuff as you can, and you take a look at the board and have to figure it out. If they have big stuff, you're going to drop Shang. If you've got a really clear, like if Starbrand taking away those, they seem to be relying on those extra 4 power, Enchantress off that Starbrand. And remember, Zabu and Sera can make Enchantress or Shang 2, or Anti-Venom 2. Are they really like, if popping Lizard up means extra power, like you can, if they filled the location to get Lizard down to a 2/2 and you play Luke there, you get an extra 6 power in that location, off enough to win. Does a cheap Juggernaut, does a 2-cost Juggernaut after Sera auto win you a lane? that they because they don't have that many big things and can't fill the board. That's what the math you're basically doing with this list. You have to really, really strongly consider that at the end of the game, and you should be able to pull it off with those combinations. Questions of the day. First, OTA wishes. So people kept asking me this on stream, and it's like I don't really have any. I don't really have any. Turns out I do. I stopped and thought about it. Okay, Hella has to go. They don't want Hella to be consistent. They've said that a million times. I think an unintended consequence of the Scar change was to make Hella too good. Thus, I think it's time to really, really look at reworking Hella yet again, or at least nuking the crap out of her power. Make her like a 6-0 until you can figure out what to do. She needs to go. The only thing, Mr. Negative is all over the place. Mr. Negative is in multiple top 10 decks. We'll have one in tomorrow's video that's currently ranked like 4 or 5. And Negative is wildly strong right now, and Negative has to go. It needs something to be nerfed. Gore really did push it over the top. Yes, people can run Mobius, but I think we're hitting a point where just enough is enough with this card, and it's probably time to go. Iron Patriot needs to be a 2/2 desperately. It should also probably be -3, not -4 when it works, but it at very least needs to be a 2/2. Galacta and Gwenpool also need to be 4/5s. They put out too much stats to be 4/6. Sauron probably needs to go up to a 3/5 because that list is cool, it's not super frustrating, and it's worth having. It's time for Fastos to be either a 3/4 or a 2/0. I don't care which, but it should be one of the two. Emperor Hulkling, it's probably time to either give that some extra power, make it a 6/14, or make it a 5 like 7, 5/8, and then we'd be happy. And then Sable needs to go back to being a 1/1 because hitting the spells as a fail case just hurts too much for her to be a 1/0. Those are my OTA wishes for this coming Thursday. Caretix Lee asks if I've noticed cards are starting to have at least one more variant release with them in the month of their spotlight. And yes, for the past several months, there was a quick moment in time that honestly lasted from last February to like last June, July, where cards wouldn't have a spotlight when they wouldn't have a variant outside of their spotlight when they released, and that royally sucked. They're basically saying I'm not going to spend like you don't want my money at that point. So almost everything has come with money now. Almost everything has come with a variant now, which means on most weeks I'm passing on the Spotlight variant, right? Like I like the variant that comes for Starbrand better than the Spotlight variant. But this month is Alex Horley, and I really do like Alex Horley, and I'm really happy that they're giving his art a showcase because he's one of the better artists in Marvel Snap. Cool. Caretakes personally like the Rian Gonzalez stuff. I didn't love the Rian. Rian so I like Rian. I'm not sure if it's Rian or Ryan. I'm gonna Rian. I don't love the Rian art. It's good, but it's not my favorite. Certainty of support on our Patreon come with honor. Thanks. Thank you to our patron of the month, Absolute Shannon. Thanks to Abigail Giesland. What's up, AG? Burnout mandatory it is. Regardless. LAB Buzz Inc. Right, sign your name. I am Frostman. It's getting warm, Frostman. Careful. Hota Neverete. Thinking Poker of the Thinking Poker podcast. Primed Ryan, not Primed Rib, Primed Ryan. Ryan Burke, right next to Allerton Avenue. Ryan Wood, Woody stopped playing Snap, but not Ryan Woody. Caretix Lee, who asked a question. One would think he's the king of those things. The always kind Koire, the always rude Kazushi. We flipped it. Archangel, 3K. We don't do 3Ks on this channel. Black Dahlia, an alliance leader who now has multiple new people. I guess just Synth. Who now has Synth in the alliance, along with our patron of the month. Pyro Frost up Pyro, the Goat Seeker. Goat Say, our alliance leader as well. Goat Seeker, have you found any goats? Hallowed Nightmare, who's did you play Nights into Nightmare? No, that's not the game. Nights into Nightmare is a game, right? But I was actually thinking of the Dreamcast Nights. No, Saturn Nights. That game was awesome. Only Fox. Okay. Synth. Hi, Synth. Bat Nick. Gertie Casual. I've taken too long. Mr. Kerfuffle. Cables. Thank you, Cables, for the wonderful gift. Ginger Prime. Sup, Ginge. Hopefully you're doing well. I haven't seen you in a bit. Ratko. Haplo. Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone. The Bizza. Notoriously always here. Black Jeebus 23. X for Fiends KBG, Rhyming Friends, Jessica Gamble, Sup Jess, Mr. Slush Death, The King of Bros, Brup, The Great Kazoo, Werewolf, Kev C. Hoda, Werewolf, thanks for stopping by, Kev C. Hoda, Luna Chris, Clam, Colonel Forbin, he needs a promotion, Rob Silverman, middle row, Rob, Holland, David Winfield, Stephen, Brian Kaufman, Martin, Jason Butt, Craig Sterry, Mista, Esquire, Matt the, Ren Wrench, Corbin, John Q, and Jim McHugh. It is almost Q-Town. Stout, Eighth Sage, One Big Man, who, if he has children, will have several little men, or women, or, non-binary folks. Milkman for real, Cactus Jack, how you doing, Foley? BG, Quid Pro Joe. I'll do that for you if you do it for me. What will we do? Listen to Snap Decisions podcast. Models, Mod Supreme. Check out our friend Models on 2 weeks ago's podcast. The Green Goblin, my favorite Osborne. Unibot, Flan 56, The Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrumix, Hoot, Laris. What's up, Aku? Thanks for hanging. Matt, DJ, Mikey, Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Nick, the Greek Geek, Zodrex, the King of Canada, Den Man, Falcon, Thor, Newman, Jonesy, Two Tags, Three Letters, the Parking Tucker, and of course Gunny T, where the T stands for. Woo! Wednesday's gonna be stressful, y'all. Wish me luck today, and I'll see you tomorrow with 2 videos. I got you covered, but I gotta get through today first. So wish me luck, and I'll see you then. Peace. And then I forgot where the stop button was, and you had to wait after the peace.